The economy. It's in the tank right now. Just as the coronavirus is affecting the health of people, it too is affecting the health of the economy. We see it in the restaurants closing their doors and retirement accounts getting decimated. Yet, if you were to ask a Roman in 124 CE or a Chinese emperor in 1640 how the economy was doing, they might look at you a little funny. Perhaps an ancient Greek wouldn't be surprised, but they would assume you were talking about your household, not some abstract entity affecting all human life. The economy as we know it today seems so ingrained, so real in our everyday life that we take it for granted. But in the big picture, the economy as we know it today is quite new. In this series, I take the most mundane, overlooked, or just plain obvious everyday things that we take for granted in our modern world. I break them down, look at them from the big picture, and share their fascinating significance for us humans. In this episode, we'll talk about the economy. Now, of course, people have been trading goods, be that rice, wheat, tables, or swords for millennia. In ancient societies, goods may be exchanged directly for other goods through bartering. Say, I'll give you 5 pounds of rice for that nice table. In other societies, such as empires, authorities had the power to mint their own coins made of precious metals to act as mediums of exchange during these trades. This made it far easier to find a table to purchase if no table crafting artisan wanted your rice. Instead, you could find someone to sell your rice to in exchange for some coins, and then go to the table crafting artisan and purchase that table with your newly earned money. Obviously, this web of production, exchange, and consumption resembles what we might call the economy, but ancient peoples didn't see it that way. In many ways, the economy did not exist for your farmers, your artisans, or your emperors of old. Famines, plagues, natural disasters, and wars controlled these complex webs of production, exchange, and consumption for ancient societies, not some abstract entity we now refer to as the economy. So, when was the economy born? Well, look no further than Great Britain during the Industrial Revolution. During the later part of the 18th century, Adam Smith, a prominent Scottish philosopher, published a series of works chronicling the emerging dynamism of Britain as it began to industrialize. Now, maybe Adam Smith wasn't the father of the economy, but he sure signed the birth certificate. His work, The Wealth of Nations, laid out in detail these complex webs of production and exchange and consumption, and how they were growing only more complex as time went on. He argued, albeit briefly, that these webs were guided by some invisible hand. The invisible hand, now, was a mechanism supposedly influencing all these behaviors. Smith believed that the pursuit of self-interest constituted the invisible hand. For example, the fisherman could learn how to catch more fish more efficiently and sell those extra fish for a few extra coins in his pocket. The fisherman obviously was working in his own self-interest to catch more fish and make more money, but that also meant that the local village had more fish to eat. This example illustrates the principle of self-interest leading to the better and greater good for all, which was a central tenet to the invisible hand. This was some 250 years ago, though, and as more countries began to enter the Industrial Revolution, capitalist systems of production and exchange proliferated. With it, the idea of the invisible hand spread, alongside other industrial age ideas such as markets, wage labor, or corporations. The invisible hand grew into an almost deified natural law among prominent philosophers who believed it would keep free markets in perfect balance without the intervention of states or autocrats. In many ways, this was truly the first step in the personification of the economy. But it stayed there, in the realm of the philosophers and elites. If you stopped a factory worker in mid-industrial Britain, they wouldn't be able to tell you what the invisible hand was, nevertheless define the economy. But that all changed during the Great Depression. The Great Depression brought the significance of this complex web of production, exchange, and consumption into the lives of ordinary people. The stock market crash of 1929 absolutely gutted the wealth of nations. It left businesses closed down and workers unemployed. And as these workers and businesses no longer had money to buy anything, demand for other goods dried up too, which only led to more businesses closing and more unemployed workers. The snowballing effect hit the average person square in the face, and policymakers could feel the pressure too. The crisis forced leaders to think of ways to control this complex web of production, exchange, and consumption, but first they needed to know what on earth they were trying to control. By this point, though, several philosophers had formally graduated into calling themselves economists, with people like Alfred Marshall and later Friedrich Hayek or John Maynard Keynes explicitly articulating what the economy was and advocated different means to influence it. With their insights, leaders would employ different strategies to lift the newly recognized economy out of its depression. The Second World War only compounded the personification of the economy, with leaders advocating explicit strategies to reorient the economy towards a war footing, whereby factories would be converted into armories to produce planes, tanks, and bullets. The economy became a force that could be mobilized and create real outcomes that proved pivotal in the fight against the Nazis. By the time that the second half of the 20th century rolled in, the economy had become a regular entity in modern life, with the West advocating their free market economy in contrast to the centrally planned economy of the Soviet Union. During the Cold War, even the most average of Joes knew what the free market economy was, and exactly what it wasn't. Communism. Since then, our understanding of the economy has certainly evolved, but it has nevertheless become a more prominent feature of modern life. Nowadays, we see it on the news, talking heads discussing the impact of the economy on our everyday life. It's no longer just the web of production, exchange, and consumption. Rather, each of these elements have matured, they've expanded, and they've evolved. Credit, interest rates, the stock market, supply chains, central banks, all of these have become integrated into our understanding of the economy. In many ways, the economy as a personified thing is the offspring of modernity. As we sail forward in the name of progress, our social systems, our technologies, and our very understanding of reality become ever more complex. With them, we need more abstract terms to understand the now unfathomably complex system that influences how much money we make, how expensive a gallon of milk is, or what a mortgage will cost us in the long run. The economy has come to be the nameplate for a system that no one person can understand in its entirety. But maybe that's the best we can do, using our little peanut brains to personify a process, a system that wields such huge influence on our lives, yet remains intangible and abstract. So the next time someone says the economy's in the tank, sit back and consider that the economy is really just a made-up name used to help us reconcile the increasing complexity we live with every day. It's truly something to behold and worthy of your contemplation. In the big picture, I guess you could say it's kind of a big deal. Thank you, and please like and subscribe for more big picture perspectives. Just remember to stay curious. See you next time.